It's called ShelterBox, and it is quickly helping families get quick access to shelter when they themselves are, going through something like this.
That's right. So we got Sanj Srikanthan. Thank you guys. You guys are the CEO specifically of ShelterBox. We really appreciate you being here with us to kind of talk about this idea of helping others who are displaced from storms. So how do you provide this ShelterBox to families?
Well, the thing that we're witnessing is an ever more serious desire for the shelter after disaster and conflict. And that's where we come in. We provide emergency shelter in a box. It includes a tent, mosquito nets, household items for cooking. It involves also blankets, items for children, and lighting as well, solar lighting. All of it sustainable, because the one common theme through disasters that are happening all over the world is people need shelter, and they need it immediately. And that's where we come in. And we're busier than ever. We've helped over 2 million people since we were founded in 2000. But the last million people we've helped since 2015. So we're getting busier and busier because the world is changing.
So what kind of disasters do you guys help with?
Well, we've responded to over 60 earthquakes, floods, droughts, volcanoes, all sorts of disasters. And the thing that we're witnessing is that they're happening in more unpredictable places, not the usual places where we would expect to see this. And we're seeing it more frequently, and we're also seeing it with greater severity as well. So monsoon rains in India aren't just lasting for a season. Sometimes they are affecting communities year round, and it's reducing their ability to cope. So our work is getting busier as the years go by.
I mean, we're looking at images of the box and some of the deliveries. I mean, these are pretty hefty duty boxes with a lot of material in them that you're giving to some of these families who are in need. Is it difficult to get them to these locations that have been disrupted?
I mean, logistics is the name of the game. We've got to pre-position, which is what we do with warehouses around the world, so we're closer to where aid is needed. We've got to get better at predicting where disasters are going to happen. And sadly, looking at past data, you can start to see a picture of where weather patterns are forming and where we need to be ahead of time. And it's absolutely key that when families, children are left out, exposed in the open after devastating weather, we should be there as soon as is humanly possible. So we pride ourselves on being timely.
Is this something that is in the U.S. or is going to be offered in the U.S.? And with that said, how do people get a hold of a shelter box after a storm?
Well, because there's so much demand around the world, we focus on countries where there's weak local or national capacity to respond. And that's rarely the case in the US, but that may change as weather becomes more severe, as we've seen even this year. In the past, for example, Hurricane Harvey in the US was something we responded to with our shelter boxes because they were in demand and the response was so huge, it needed everyone to help. What we are going to see with severe weather is 45 million homes around the world affected in the next 20 years. So roughly 11 million more people every year displaced by climate-related weather. And that could include the US. And of course, we're prepared to respond wherever that need is greatest.
Kind of break down, the idea of technology and how, over the time since you guys maybe were created and bringing these supplies to some of these areas, how technology has helped you, maybe with the lighting conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, the key thing is families need a sustainable solution, and going from paraffin lamps to a site that not only provides light through charging from the sun, but also a USB port in the light where you can charge your phone. Because next to shelter, the other thing that you want is to be able to communicate with family to say that you're safe. So that's a great example of innovation, and really one of our most popular tools is that solar light. But another one is not so high tech, but actually quite relevant. Drought is happening in more places in the world, and our new water pump can provide 200,000 liters of clean drinking water compared to the old one, which is 1,000 liters. Because for longer and for unknown durations, sometimes people are without safe, clean drinking water. And of course, they'll drink whatever they can get. And sometimes they get diseases like cholera. So it's vital that new pumps like the water filter that we now have distributed, that people can drink safe water for longer.
What is the manpower with this? We're talking volunteers, the money going into this, how you organize when you go in after. Is there a sign-up sheet, or you just walk up and hand them out to whoever's most in need?
Well, we only have about 130 staff worldwide. We have lots of volunteers, hundreds of volunteers. We also have a global partnership with Rotary International, and they have networks across the countries where we work. And when we get into countries, we get in touch with communities, community leaders, find out which areas are worst affected, talk to other aid agencies, and then we talk to communities in those affected areas and visit houses to work out which houses are worst damaged and who's in the house. You know, how vulnerable are they? Are they women and children? Can they cope by themselves? And the really tough thing, the really emotional thing, is trying to decide who's going to get aid and who isn't. Because sadly, there's never enough to go around. And that's one of the toughest things.
But you're making a difference, and so that's what matters. You're doing something. This is helping some people, and without this, there'd be a lot fewer people with those necessities, really. Sanj Srikanthan, CEO of ShelterBox, thank you so much for joining us today.